Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Sri Srimad-Bhagavatam Charanardavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Iskan Sanstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Hare Krishna. Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatityuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Where are we here? Srimad-Bhagavatam Scandal 10, Adhyaya 47, Shloka 30. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Small purport. Atmanyevatmanatmanam. Should I just read it? We don't need to read it. I'll just read it. Shrije hamyanupalaye atmamayanu bhutendriya gunatmana padapataha. Atmani, within myself. Eva, indeed. Atmana, by myself. Atmanam, myself. Srije, I create. Hanmi, I destroy. Anupalaye, I sustain. Atma, my own. Maya, of the mystic potency. Anubhavena, by the power. Bhuta, the material elements. Indriya, the senses. Guna, and the modes of nature. Atmana, comprising. Translation and purport by disciples of Srila Prabhupada. By myself I create, sustain, and withdraw myself within myself by the power of my personal energy, which comprises the material elements, the senses, and the modes of nature. Purport: although the Lord is the supreme entity, there is no absolute duality between him and his creation, since the creation is an extension of his being. This oneness is here emphasized by the Lord. Let's see. So Lord Krishna is speaking to the Gopis, and he's explaining how by his Atma Maya, his internal potency. Potency means power. So there are many powers we see, right? The policeman has power. The government officers have power. The politicians have power. The boss at work has power. At home, the father and mother have power over the children. Thank you. So there are different types of power. Political leader can declare war and sacrifice thousands of soldiers. For what reason? Actually, this game of grabbing another country, another kingdom, is ancient. It was in the Vedic times also that kings would invade another kingdom. They didn't kill women and children and old people. They would only fight, soldiers would fight with each other, and whoever won got the other kingdom. So this is since time immemorial. So power is given in the material world. It's hard to understand. Why does someone have power? But what is the power beyond all of these powers? That is the question. Sorry. The power behind all the power is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what is that verse? Anyway, it reminded me of a verse that I haven't memorized. That, love conquers the Supreme Lord, but even though he's the most powerful, the love of his devotees. So the Gopis, that's the Gopi, the song of the bee. The Gopis were lamenting the disappearance of Krishna. Krishna left Vrindavan, went to Mathura, and they became mad with love of Krishna. So that love conquered Krishna. Even though he manifests all the universes, he creates everything. I mean, it's wonderful, isn't it? The material body. How is it functioning inside? We don't know. We can't say when it will stop suddenly, right? Suddenly someone has a stroke or a heart attack or whatever, and they leave their body. And it's not predictable. In some cases, it's predictable because you can see declining health, right? Due to some disease. A disease is concomitant to the material body, some disease. Some people lose their sanity, right? It's called dementia. or they become totally forgetful. They are able to function, but they can't remember anything. Alzheimer's, right? They call it Alzheimer's over here. And dementia. You lose your cognitive power. How this happens? And how is it that we can see? Our eyes are taking pictures at every moment. There are blind people, they can't see their whole life. So this type of abilities, who created all of this? So yeah, the verse is Naham Prakasha, that's not the one I was thinking of, but Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavritaha. So that verse in Gita is just like this verse. Yogamaya, right? Maya is written here, Atma Maya. Written means it's a description of the power of the Supreme Lord. He has Parasya Shaktihi, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. This is a Upanishad Vakya, statement from the Upanishads. The power of the Supreme, Parasya, the Supreme, Shaktihi, power, Vividha Eva, Vividhaiva, Vividha Eva. It manifests in different ways. Shruyate is heard. It is heard that that supreme power manifests. So here he says that all the universes I bring back into myself. Even this one city is amazing. There used to be one of our God brothers was a good lecturer, and he used to say that, you know, there are so many thousands of cities in this country. He was talking about India in that time. And there are so many states where these cities exist. And in the city, in each city, there's thousands of residences and thousands of inhabitants. And there's one man there thinking, I am God. So this is the illusion that you think that you're God. And there's a lot of people out there. I've realized that I am God. They'll tell you like that. Mayavadis. You've heard of the Mayavadis, right? So they say it's all one. Here also it says the oneness emphasized by the Lord in the purport. And there are statements in the Upanishads that, you know, because Upanishads deal with liberation of the soul from the repetition of birth and death. So there are statements. What is that? Ayanam Brahma. You are that supreme. Or what else? My God, I'm forgetting the so-called, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said they are not the Mahavakya. Vakya means a statement, that's all. And Maha is great. So Adi Shankara, Aham Brahmasmi, what is it? Ayanam Brahma, Tattvam Asi. And there's one more. These are statements from the Upanishad. You are that. I am Brahma. Aham Brahma Asmi. Aham Brahmasmi. Brahma is the supreme truth. So how is it that we are supreme? We are not supreme in the sense of Ishvara, the controller. We are supreme as a part, Angsha of Ishvara. Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha. The Jivas are eternal. They are my parts, Krishna says in Gita. So we are Sachit Ananda. No, not this body. The body will go away. Even if you have a new heart, a new, kidney, a new liver. Oh, we know someone like that, right? He knows. Who has a new kidney and liver? You don't have to say. And I met a devotee in Los Angeles, was it 4 years ago? He had a heart transplant. And there are some people, they've had several heart transplants. I read on the internet, several heart transplants. But even if you have several, you have to give up this body. They will elongate, is that a proper word? Elongate your life. Lengthen your period of living. For what? What is the purpose of that living? It's just like a bellows. Bellows now is out of use. You know this word, bellows? The blacksmiths in the villages, to heat a fire, they would have an instrument, I guess it was made out of leather in the past or some cloth, that would blow air onto the fire to spark the fire and make it get hotter. So only air comes out of that. So in that sense, it's useless. Only air. Air is free. It's just a contraption to blow air. So human life is just blowing air unless there's some aim in life, isn't it? Most of the people are aimless. So therefore they're called two-legged animals, dvipada pashu, because they have no sense where they're going. What's the aim of life? But Kali Yuga is a confusing time. You know, they will tell you the aim of life is equal rights, right? Feminism is also a struggle for equal rights. Black Lives Matter, this thing, that thing, the other. How many struggles are there? Free us from the oppression of the Russians, right? The Ukrainians, whatever. All of these are mundane, materialistic. Because ultimately, even if you're free from oppression, what's the aim of it? You're going to die. So where does the soul go after death? So you'll see today it's become a very materialistic society, even in India. In modern urban life means the struggle to earn money so you can have a nice place to live. But if you have a nice place to live and you're just eating and sleeping, it's the same as a dog or a hog. The dog is eating nicely. Some of these dogs, boy, they live better than human beings. Dogs of the rich, right? So just to eat and sleep and defecate and urinate, it's an animal activity. At the end, Prabhupada was lying in a bed in Vrindavan, couldn't move. His body was destroyed. And he made a comment, now I am free from these animal activities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But it's very difficult to become detached from these things. In fact, Vedic culture encourages marriage and grihastha ashram. And Prabhupada said grihastha ashram is for children. Now the Hindus, they don't want children. And some other communities, they have many children. So then India, which is the home of Vedic culture, was divided into, well, it's now 4 countries or 5 countries. It was one, and all the people were following Vedas, and even outside. We call it Akhanda Bharat, right? The unbroken Bharata, Mahabharata. Gita is Mahabharata. So the people were following Vedic culture 5,000 years ago. And we were on the train platform with Prabhupada in Nellore. You never heard of it, right? Even he hasn't heard of it. He's from India. Well, there's 500,000 villages in India. Nellore is a town, district headquarters in Andhra Pradesh. It's 160 miles, 160 kilometers, 100 miles north of Madras, which is now Chennai. You've heard of Chennai? Madras? No? Yes. Yes. Well, that's the biggest city in South India. And the British rule was they had their trading outpost there. Southeastern coast of India. Remember there was a tsunami a few years ago? What was it, 2014 or 2004? I can't remember now. 14, I think. So there's a beach there called the, oh my God, it was in my mind just now. Something. Marina Beach, I think that's it. It's an English name. So during the tsunami, whoever was on the beach, Tata de Hantara Prapti, they went, Yamaraj took them away. There was a tsunami hit that beach. And whoever was there, a couple, 2,000-3,000 people, washed away. So we were, Prabhupada came there and then he came to Nellore from there. He walked on that beach, we walked with him. Same beach, was 1976. So we arrived, I came a day early, but when he arrived on the train platform in Nellore, it's a 3-hour train ride north of Chennai. And there were 2,000 people waiting to greet him. And the Nadaswaram, it's a clarinet that's very long for Westerners here. And in North India, there's a Chennai. You heard of the Chennai, right? It's like a clarinet. So they have the long ones in South India. So they, on any festival or in the temple, when you go on a tour of the temples in South India, have you been yet? No, not yet. So whenever they offer the food to the deities, at that time, they have this Nadaswaram playing. And there are certain fixed times of the day. They have there's a drum that plays called a tawil, which is this huge drum and makes a very sharp sound. And a mridanga is a different instrument from a tawil. It's a very sweet music. And during weddings, any auspicious occasion, these people have to play. So they're playing, Brahmins are chanting Vedic mantras from the Vedas. And when there's any festive occasion, little girls put a coconut on their head. Now, it's not just they're holding a coconut. There's a whole decorative holder than the coconut, and it's an ancient tradition. So, seeing this, Prabhupada said Vedic culture is more intact in South India. He told us like that. So, Prabhupada was propagating Vedic culture. Now, the aim of Vedic culture is liberation. There are 4 aims of human life according to Vedic culture, right? Nay. Kama is one of them, but not the first one. Right? Dharma is first. Dharma, then artha, then kama, then moksha. Dharma means in childhood you should memorize Vedic Shastras, particularly one Veda, and then there are the 6 Angas, and then Puranas, and could be Puranas, could be law, could be philosophy, could be military science, different branches of knowledge. So Vedic culture means Vedic education. Now, when you want to revive Vedic culture, you have to revive Vedic education also. So Vedic culture has these 4 aims. First, you learn what are religious principles, dharma. So we translate it as religious principles, but actually it's a way of life. There are Vedic literature that guides you how to do everything. Yeah. There are many ceremonies, and the time in between the ceremonies is everyday life. These things are all how you should live is in Vedic literature. We're not living like that. That's a different story. But it's there, the guidance. How to live, children should be taught. Otherwise, there's confusion. Unless you're given instructions on how to live in the childhood, you become confused. Society is encouraging intoxication. And intoxication means illusion and confusion. Intoxication means illusion and confusion. And this whole modern society is built on intoxication. Now, intoxication comes in different forms. Obviously alcohol and marijuana and drugs. But even the entertainment is an illusion, like intoxication. So it's a form of intoxication. Gambling is also a form of intoxication. It becomes addictive. So, Dharma. If you're trained in the childhood, what is Dharma? What are your duties? Dharma also means occupational duties. And that's the Varnashram system, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So if you know what your duties are, then you have some aim in life. And after that, whatever you are, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, you need some wealth. So, Dharma, Artha. Oh, sorry, pardon the disturbance. Dharma, Artha, after you obtain wealth. Now, wealth for the masses of people was agricultural wealth. Because after all, you cannot eat these, can't eat the microphone, you can't eat the telephone. You can't eat the car. And the animals helped the humans to produce food grains. But now they want to eat the animals. You don't see animals and humans working together as they... And the humans would take care of the animals, feed the animals. And if you get milk, if you're drinking milk, well, that's the same as a baby drinking milk from his mother. You don't kill your mother, so you don't kill the cow. Even the buffalo. Here there are no water buffaloes, but in Italy and in India and I guess in Africa, do they have water buffaloes? I think so. And what about South America? They have water buffaloes there? They do. Yeah. There's buffalo mozzarella cheese, right? That's famous. And in India, well, cheese is paneer. They don't make the other cheeses. But yogurt, ghee, is considered acceptable from the buffalo. Of course, many people drink the buffalo milk. But so, in Nanda, Abhinanda, Upananda, they had buffaloes and cows and goats and sheep also. The sheep are for the wool, so you don't feel cold in the winter. So anyway, Dharma, Artha. Then Kama. Kama means you need to eat and sleep and mate and defend. So your desires, the necessities are called Kama. Now we have the statement like Krishna Bhakta Nishkam, Ata Eva Shant. A devotee has no material desires, so he's peaceful. But he may be a householder. He may have a wife and children, so his desires are limited. A devotee is not obsessed with desires. But a materialistic person becomes obsessed with his material desires. And that obsession drives them to become rich or to have many women. Generally, what is it? Women and wealth. What else? What else is there to enjoy? Right? Nowadays, they've outlawed polygamy. Prabhupada was in favor of it. But they have polygamy in a different way here, right? A man will go out and, I saw an advertisement. Where did I see that? It might have been in Jitendriya's room, or I can't remember, but some classified ad in some, paper. A married man looking for many women, This is quite common here. Because people are influenced not only by their ignorance of Dharma, but by intoxication and generally the lower modes of nature, right? The mode of ignorance and the mode of passion. So this type of behavior is there, but it's adharmic. It's against the rules of Dharma. Now, why is that harmful? Well, we human beings have to suffer the reaction of their actions. Karma, theory of action and reaction. Well, that's, Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. But this idea is ancient. And Vedic literature says, that you have to take birth after birth. Gita says, let's say, the Upanishads describe. The Gita is called Gita Upanishad. So, for one who is born, death is certain. Now, what happens after death? You have to be born again. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityor. For one who is born, death is certain. Dhruvam, certainly, janma mritasya cha. Of one who has died, he has to be born. So, if you have the human form of life and you misuse it, then there's a punishment. You're born as an animal, a tree, aquatic, reptile, or whatever. And you have to suffer. We see these animals living in this cold climate. They don't have a nice blanket. They don't have a space heater or a boiler to give them warmth in the winter. Some of them go to sleep for 6 months, and some of them have to suffer in that miserable climate. So, I mean, the suffering in the material world there's no end of it, right? As long as you are born again, die again, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Punarapi means punaha, again. Api, certainly. Punarapi, because two words come together, so the R is there. Punaha, api, punarapi. Jananam, birth. Punarapi, maranam, death. Again death, again birth. So it's called the samsara chakra, the wheel of birth and death, going on again and again. So we have to understand that behind all of this is Ishvara, the supreme controller. And we are not that Ishvara. If we were, well, we wouldn't be suffering in this material body. We wouldn't have a headache or my foot has gone to sleep. That wouldn't happen to Ishvara. He's beyond the material elements. He created the material elements. And so he doesn't have to suffer in the material world. But he comes, avatara. It's a famous English word now, right? Avatar. But they pronounce it differently, avatar or something like that. Avatarati, avatar. But they say Okay, same word. You came down, he came down, or we also have a form. It's used in different senses, actually, right? Avatar. It's used in different senses. But Bhagavatam and Puranas describe Isha avatar, the incarnation of the Supreme Lord in the material world. Why should he come? So it's like a governor of a state coming to visit the prison. This is the analogy. The Lord comes in the world and he shows the path of religion, how to get out of the entanglement of repeated birth and death. So part of that is to understand that he is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer of all the universes. Part of it. But the solution, the ultimate aim, dharma, artha, kama, then moksha, freedom from the repetition of birth and death. There are so many calls for freedom. Free Ukraine, free whatever, right? I mean, there's no end of it. In Spain, Barcelona, right? It's a different language, right? It's a dialect of Spanish. What is it called? I'm forgetting right now. So they want to be free. But Spain was a kingdom. The king conquered that area. Anyway, so it goes like that all over the world. There's subgroups, language groups, ethnic groups, tribes, this thing, that thing, the other thing. They're demanding freedom, but the actual aim of human life is freedom from the repetition of birth and death. not so-called political freedom. You know, they say that the ruling class is exploiting the mass of people. And what happens if they're overthrown? Well, then another ruling class comes up that exploits the people. So in the material world, there's always competition to become a controller, Ishvara. That's mentioned in Gita. Kshatriya has Ishvara Bhav, controlling a mentality. So there are many people that want to control. We call them control freaks, right? That's the present idiomatic expression, control freak. And this is from time immemorial. It's not something new. There's always been control freaks. But those control freaks don't really have control. For a few years, right? Presidents are elected, they control the country, and then their term ends and they no longer control. And right in Africa, Zimbabwe, that guy, what was his name? Mugabe. He was everything for like 70 years or 50 years, 60 years. And then one day it ended. And so it's like that for all the kings mentioned in the Puranas. There's a history of so many kings. So many kings are mentioned. I mean, hundreds, thousands came and left. So the power in the material world that you get, some people get it, but it's flickering, temporary. And actual, nobody is the controller but Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's controlling everything. So he made the material bodies, then so many distinctions, but those distinctions are the false identification of the soul with the body. Now we can't get out of the body. Just like snapping your fingers, I want to leave this body. Or even with yoga practice, you may be able to take the soul out of the body, but it's not easy. Maybe. You have to push the soul from the heart through the head. And then at that point, I think the soul possibly could go to the Brahma Jyoti, the effulgence of the Lord, maybe. Or the higher planets, Tapaloka, where those who perform penances reside in the material world. There are many places to go in this world and in the higher planets, and then the heavenly planets. Oh, they're also higher planets. And then when you're free, real freedom means to go to Vaikuntha, where there's no fear, no anxiety. That's the spiritual world. But it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's worth endeavoring. That's what we say. That's what Bhagavatam says. So Krishna came 5,000 years ago, and we see different types of devotees of Krishna and Krishna Leela. And it is considered that they attained liberation because of their Krishna consciousness. And Gita says that if you remember me at the time of death, you're free from the material body. So what does that mean? That means you go to the spiritual world. Tough examination, difficult to pass. So there are people in this world who are brilliant and they can pass any examination. Or they're specialists in a particular field and they pass the examination. But all of that glory, they get some recognition. He passed. First, what is it? Summa cum laude. Magna cum laude, right? Distinction. So if you have a distinction in this world, how does it serve how does it help the Atma? How does it help the soul? Doesn't. What helps the soul is devotion. So therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prayer, I only want devotion to you without any cause. We mentioned that in the last time I spoke, that ahaituki, hetu, you want to achieve something. I want to be the richest man in the world. I want to be the most powerful man in the world. I want to be the leader of my country. I want to be a leader of my community. It goes on and on and on. Distinction. Sports figure, acting, business, politics. It's a temporary pleasure. The eternal pleasure, real distinction is ahaituki. I don't want any of these material things. Bhagavad bhaktihi. Bhagavad bhaktihi ahaituki. Only devotion to the Lord without any material desire. We're saying it, but doing it is tough. Doing it is tough. So practice. So therefore we have these worship ceremonies, begging Tulsi to give us bhakti to Krishna, worshipping the deities. Very few people are doing it. In India, thousands of people go to see deities. Temples, very popular. It's ancient system. Prabhupada gave the analogy of the post box. You don't see them anymore, right? They're vanishing. When we were kids, everybody would put their mail in a post box. And because it's authorized, it's part of the system, it reaches its destination. Now we just use email. So if you worship the deities, then that is the receptacle that the Supreme Lord accepts your worship. And you'll get credit for that. Who says? So there are Agama Shastras, the Nigamas and the Agamas. What are the Nigamas? He should tell us. Can't tell us. Modern education. No? No. What are Nigamas? It's the second verse of the Bhagavatam. Nigama kalpa taruhu galitam phalam. Galitam phalam is ripened fruit. But what is Nigama? Yeah, the Vedas. And Agamas are Vedic supplementary literature, not the Puranas. There's a whole body of literature called the Agamas, Pancharatra. We call it Pancharatra. It's also called Agamas. How many Pancharatras are there? 140, at least. There might be more. Who studies these? Actually, only these Ramanuja Brahmins in South India study them. Gaudiyas have the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Hari Bhakti Vilas and is a kind of a condensed Agama Shastra. Satkriya Sardipika of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. There, those activities that you find in the Pancharatras are described. Some of them. So the deity worship came from Agamas. And so to establish the authority of Agamas, Ramanujacharya's Param Guru, Yamunacharya, you heard his name? Yamunacharya, Stotra Ratnam. So he wrote another book, Agama Pramanyam. The pramana means evidence to support Agamas, that they also came from Narayana. We say that the Vedas come from Narayana, from Vishnu. There is no origin, there's no human origin of Vedas. But in Vedas, there's no deity worship, actually. There's fire sacrifices and mantras. And the ritual, guiding how to perform these, which sacrifice is there and what mantras to chant in the sacrifice. But the deity worship is ancient. It's not new, but came from the Agamas. So the system of how to, my God, reestablish your relation with the Lord because you fell down in the material world. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam, I'm a fallen Vishame bhavam buddho. I fell in this ocean of sense gratification. Wow, they're not leaving me alone. The ringer is off. So we fell in this material ocean. Now we have to get out. But how? Just by begging him. That was what Mahaprabhu did. Just begging him, please save me from the repetition of birth and death. And the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is exactly that. It's a Sambodhan. Sambodhan means calling out. Hare, Hare Krishna Rama, you're calling out to the Supreme Lord. Please save me from this miserable condition that I'm in. When a child it feels, especially a small baby, they cry. So this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is crying. Prabhupada gave that description. You're crying for Krishna. Because a child can't speak, so they cry. So then the parents, we have to give milk to the child. So we're crying to Krishna, and please take me out of this miserable material world. How did I come here? Something, Durdaiva is also used in Shikshastika. Daiva means fate, and Durdaiva means bad luck, bad fate. Somehow I'm in this material world, it's miserable. I'm suffering. Everyone is suffering. Anityam asukham lokam, Krishna tells Arjuna. This world is temporary and full of miseries and no happiness. Imam prapsya bhajasva mam. Now somehow you came here. Okay, worship me. So Hare Krishna mantra is crying out for Krishna, and the deity worship, chanting the names of Krishna, is the way out. Very few people stick to that. So, but there are many also, thousands, who did take to this path. The path of bhakti, devotion. Bhagavat says it's the topmost dharma, bhakti. But should be pure bhakti and shouldn't be contaminated bhakti. Oh, my dear Lord, I want a new car. I want a new house. I want a beautiful wife. I want nice children. That's contaminated bhakti, but still it's bhakti. You're coming to the Lord. Sakam bhakti. Sa, with, kama, desires. You have desires and you approach the Lord. Better you approach the Lord, right? Akama sarva kamo va, moksha kama udaradihi. Second canto of Bhagavatam. There's a verse. If you have no desire, akama. Sarva kamo va, or you have all types of desires. Moksha kama, you desire liberation. Udharadihi, so, and you're intelligent. Tivrena bhakti yogena, by tivra means intense. Tivra, intense bhakti yoga, intense devotion. Tivrena, by intense devotion. That ena is instrumental case. Forget about grammar now or we'll go crazy. By devotion, by intense devotion, yajeta purusham param, worship the Supreme Lord. Worship the Supreme Personality. So that's what Bhagavatam is teaching. Different, today, Atmanam, Atma, how I created the world and brought it all into myself. But from this you can understand He's supreme, we're not supreme. So, Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param. Worship that Supreme Lord, intensive Bhakti Yoga. No doubt there are people that have much more intensive Bhakti Yoga than the fool and dog who's speaking to you today. But this is the path. I may not be the greatest example, I mean to say, of Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, but this is the prescription. Hare Krishna. Time is up. Any questions? Comments? Yes, Prabhu. Oh, Mike. Yeah.
Thank you for everything. So much mercy. As a person, I have a talent of, I have a talent of playing music.
Oh, okay.
So I've always struggled with like a guilty feeling, like feeling like I really try to use it for preaching. I write songs, Krishna song, contemporary sounds, but kind of like with Krishna consciousness, and it comes kind of natural. My guru gave it to me as a service to do, and I was reading in the Narada Bhakti Sutra a little bit about where he says anything you do in order to worship the Lord is called bhakti. So, like, for the first time in maybe in my life, I felt comfortable, like, because I do it for the Lord. I don't do it for all these other things. So I started like just recently, a couple of days ago, I said, oh, this is bhakti. Playing my guitar and writing songs for Krishna is actually bhakti, because this is what I do it for preaching and to help distribute books. I was wondering if you could share something about that.
Narad Muni is always playing a stringed instrument, not a guitar, but a veena. So, yeah, can't deny that. We missed you yesterday, but we had other melodious voice here at the kirtan. Today there's a nagar kirtan, a street kirtan. Where is it? Where is everybody going? Wicker Park. How far is that? Oh, 12 to 4. Are you going on that kirtan?
Personally, as an individual, I think of Rajuna, where the story of where he was asked to shoot the eye out of the air, the eye of the bird.
Arjuna.
Yeah. So the service that I do have, I just don't see anything else. I try to focus on the one thing that my guru gave me.
Sun Kirtan. Kirtana means glorifying Krishna with song, generally. Japa is, personal, chanting his name, and then Kirtan is loudly chanting. And then Sankirtan means in a group. Not trying to impose anything on anybody. But that's Mahaprabhu's movement. I'd be happy to go. How are they going? Everyone going in their own vehicle? I have a car. Oh, you're going earlier. Oh, okay. Right. Pardon? I'll follow you. Oh, I have a car too. Oh, you have a room in your car. Okay. So 12 o'clock. 11:30. We have a date. So, yeah, if you're inspired to serve Krishna by music, why should I say no? But, back in 1972, 50 years ago, suddenly, this is the thing with time, right? We old people, well, you're not so young yourself, but it's before I joined ISKCON, actually, but there was a rock band and they called it the Road Show, and Prabhupada disbanded it. He didn't approve of it. He didn't like the modern hippie type of music. Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm not...
Yeah, the stuff that I do is not like that. It's like George Harrison. We wake up every morning to the Beatles. You know, not a Beatles song, but a Beatle, like making some contribution.
It's still Western music, to be very frank. But George Harrison did a lot of service for Prabhupada, so we try not to, criticize him in any way, because, you know, he did major, service. In the early days when nobody was helping Prabhupada, he gave him a boost. And he donated that, you know, center in London, which is famous, but mostly Indians go there. I mean, there are a few British. It's hard to change the mass of people. I don't know. Maybe that's my experience. But yeah, Prabhupada propagated the Bengali kirtan, if you want to call it that. It is a Bengali kirtan, yeah.
I don't mean to make it so personal, but I have to seize the opportunity to
Sure.
I don't bring it into the temple, like, you know, and try to bring it into kirtan or anything.
Right.
I just use it for what I call.
Well, the road show wasn't in the temple, right? There
Right,
were,
yeah.
in the early 70s, starting with Woodstock, if you remember Woodstock. I mean, I didn't go there, but devotees did distribute books there. But that type of music festival became very popular in the U.S. among the youth. You know, lakhs of youth. Lakhs means, a lakh is 100,000. So hundreds and thousands of young people would go to these festivals. So the devotees were young people at that time, Prabhupada's followers, and they thought, we'll attract. And you know, he stopped it. But after Prabhupada's disappearance, they're doing it. But it's not a smash success. You know, nobody achieved name and fame in ISKCON, just as far as I know, you know. There is a devotee couple from Australia whose daughter became a famous actress. But that's about it. I mean, she's not the most famous also, you know. And then, well, Julia Roberts is a Hindu, but she's following a sect of Vaishnavism where they take intoxication. So the guru that they, you know, that they adore. It's in the mode of ignorance. Yeah.
That's for most people. For what I do is, I consider transcendental, and I would be willing to, you know, share it with you. Some of it. But
Narad Muni. You want to be like Narad Muni? Yeah, okay.
Well,
it's good.
In truth, it is.
Narad Muni converted many people to become devotees, the hunter and whatnot. And he's always singing. And right? There's a bhajan in Bengali, right? Narad Muni bhajaye vina. Radhika Ramana name. He's taking the name of Krishna. And so, yeah, it's good.
So it's time, place, and circumstance. Like, it's just something that's come to me to just.
Well, the sound of Krishna's name being vibrated by devotees is from time immemorial. Okay. I guess we went over. Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Hari Hari Bol.